G'day guys, welcome back to another Roughed Up episode 19. Today we have Bill Edgar on.
For our Halloween special.
Yes.
As you can see, we got old mate. That's not a guest, by the way. We got Bill Edgar.
Also known as the Coffin Confessor.
Yeah, so he talks about his life of being a private investigator at the start, and then he's gone into coffin confessing, where he goes to people's funerals and tells what the dead wants to say to people, kicks people out of funerals.
But that is just a small part of the whole podcast today. We talk about his past, him being in jail.
Yeah, him being in Boggo Road jail, which is insane.
And basically his story.
Yeah.
So enjoy
Give it a listen.
guys.
Also, subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you're listening on Spotify, go over to our YouTube and hit subscribe.
Please.
Please.
Welcome back to the Roughed Up podcast.
G'day guys, welcome back to another Roughed Up episode with myself, Eli Hooper.
Me, Ryan.
Ryan and Bill Edgar, absolute legend, also known as the Coffin Confessor.
Don't know about legend, mate, but
Interesting guest for this week.
Yeah, it's nice to be here, thanks.
Yeah, we got a Halloween theme going on for this week, and perfect guy to do it. I think a bit on the like
On the cuff?
Yeah, like a good with death and stuff. You got your skeleton behind us, so that's pretty cool. But how would you describe yourself to people that would have no idea what you do or who you are?
Well, I'm the funeral crasher, I guess. I crash funerals on behalf of the deceased, telling those that were loved how much they were loved, and those that my clients love to hate to fuck off.
Yeah.
But that's a very small part of your history. You've done a lot of stuff through your childhood. From when you were born, you were automatically there was a lot going on. Yeah,
a lot going on. I mean, my childhood, I guess my dreams would haunt your nightmares.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a good theme for Halloween, I guess. But at the same time, it's a true life story, and it was a struggle. But I mean, at the end of the day, it set me up for where I am today.
Yeah. Are you proud of where you are today from where you came from?
Oh, absolutely. But I one thing I never do is I never forget where I come from. Yeah. Always keep in perspective where I'm going, but never forget where I come from. Yeah. It's very important.
So before you got into this job, what were you doing before, and how did this job come into play?
I am a private investigator. I've been for around 15 years now, but I investigate finances. I'm in the world of finance, and I was working for a gentleman that was he was dying, and we started talking about death, the afterlife, and all that type of stuff, as you do with somebody that's knocking on death's door. And it ended up being a revelation to him, because he wanted to do something and leave something behind, and I suggested a eulogy. He said he'd been to plenty of funerals where the family don't play the eulogy. They watch it prior and they go yes or no, and he said, I really want something done. And jokingly, I just said, look, mate, I'll crash your funeral for you. And then he took me up on the offer.
So I was wondering, how do you even get into the private investigating gig? Because it seems a bit of a weird way to go. Because you have to be a good detective to then become a private investigator. So how long were you doing just investigating in general?
That's true. You have to be a good detective. But in my case, I was a good criminal. And when I was very young, 16, 17, I guess, I learnt the trade of, anything to do with crime. I sort of did it because I was a street kid. I had nowhere to go. I lived on the streets, broke into homes, shops, you name it. Did what I could to survive. The main thing I ever stole, though, was food. Yeah. I hardly ever stole anything else. It was mainly food, just to keep alive. And then I guess it became a thing where I was either talented at it or just good at it. And that sort of, again, set me up for what I do today, in PI work. But the PI came about because I'd done every job known to man, you name it. I was a brickies labourer, roofer, tiler, concrete, whatever it was, I did it. Tree lopping, you name it, I did it, and it's all hard yakka and it's out there, And I wanted to do something different, you know, but I couldn't read, write or spell well. And it wasn't until 30 that I really learned to read, write and spell. I didn't get my car licence till I was nearly 30, but I've been driving since I was 12.
Yeah.
I stole my first car at 12, 13, I think it was, when I first learnt to drive. But it took me all that time before I got a licence and to read, write and spell. So I guess I just needed something better in life. And it was the decision to go into debt collecting, believe it or not, which again, you know, I was good at. And then I realised that I was collecting money off people that didn't even fucking owe the money. They didn't know it. It was written off. It was already, you know, the banks had already written it off, but the banks were also selling debts that they'd written off. So it was a double dip and it was illegal. So I jumped the fence and I said, I'm going to go and investigate these matters. But to do that, you needed something behind your credentials. So I became a PI.
Yeah. With that, do you have to go to like university or TAFE for like something like that, or is it just
I guess some people do go you know, through and study a bit of law and all that, but I guess my background, I already knew all that, you know, and I'd learnt a lot, and nothing beats street smarts. Nothing beats that, and I was the top of the class. How,
like through your PI stuff, how many people did you investigate through that time, and how long did you do it for before you switched over to what you're doing now?
I'm still doing. I'm still a PI. I've probably assisted over 11,000 people to walk away from their debts debt-free, investigating companies, banks, you know, and the debt collection industry. So, yeah, I am the only debt detective in Australia.
Wow.
Does that entail just following a money train, or is it more the street smarts and actually knowing?
It's both. It's definitely both, because at the end of the day, these people that are selling debts and purchasing debts, they got street smarts as well. And they know the ins and outs of fraud and theft and all that type of stuff. So you've got to be better than them. You've got to be ahead of them, and you do face, you know, there is a paper trail in everything we do in life. More so now, it's a digital trail. Back then, it's a paper trail, and papers got easily, you know, burnt, removed, flooded, whatever it was.
And I bet you face a lot of big giants in the world as well, like big banks and
absolutely,
big companies.
For sure.
Try and fight you on it.
Absolutely. I mean, I was dragged in front of ASIC. I was investigated. I was basically terrorised for what I do, which is investigating, you know, banks and financial services. And at the end of the day, nothing I did was wrong. You know, I wasn't a debt negotiator. I never helped people with their debt to resolve the debt. What I did was investigate the debt. And I exposed the industry. And I'm only a small percentage. I'd probably help, you know, 0.1% of the whole, you know, Australia's economics in debt. But there are people out there now that are starting to do the same, and I congratulate them. It needs to be exposed. It's such a ruthless, cutthroat, you know, bullshit industry, and you've got all these lawyers that walk around like, and they're the biggest blood-sucking parasites on this side of the earth. You know, it's all about money, nothing else. They don't care about anything but money.
People in struggles, and they're just sucking money out of them.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. You got it.
Well, at the moment it's like what is it? No win, no fee. That's how they get you. Those lawyers.
Well, that's another thing. I mean, I've just been through that, but I've been fighting a school I went to and was abused at for over 30 years. You know, and it's taken a long time to get to a resolution where I am today. And I'd been through a number of these no win, no fee lawyers, and at the end of the day, you know, you've got to be very careful who you choose. And even then, I mean, the lawyers that you choose, they've got to have a backbone, because if they don't, you know, you're in more trouble than you're worth, and you end up owing those people that you've engaged. So you've got to be very careful what you do.
Well, we're also talking off camera, like what you're doing, like traveling, where you're going to, and what you're up to now.
Today I'm actually I'm on the way to the Sunshine Coast. I'm going to a viewing. So a gentleman that passed away, he's engaged me to place some items in his coffin. Some photos, his mobile phone. Again, I don't know why everybody wants their mobile phone in the coffin, but they do.
Send a text message out.
Who knows? You know, but whether it stays there or not, you know, is not my care or concern. Mine is to do what I've been asked to do. So I'll go to the viewing today and ask for a couple of minutes of private time, and I'll place the items in his coffin, and whatever happens after that happens.
Yeah. Are you a bit now desensitized to like dead bodies and stuff? Because I imagine you would see a fair few of them by now.
Yeah, I think it's a case that I never was sensitised to it in the first place. I mean, when I was 17, I got thrown in Bogger Road Jail, which is a notorious jail in Brisbane, you know, in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and it was a terrible, terrible place to be. And I saw death all around me there. It was a shocking place.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible.
I've heard a lot of stories from Bogger Road that it's definitely one of the worst that's ever kind of been in Australia.
Oh, yeah. It was a vile and a rough as guts prison you've ever been to. I mean, it's I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. It was a terrible place, absolutely.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, why did you get thrown in there? If you're happy to talk about it, you don't have to.
No, well, look, I was a street kid, like I said, from the age of 14, 15, and I'd committed crime, as in breaking enters and all that, but I never actually got caught for the things I did. What happened to me though is I demanded property with menaces. And that means that I saw somebody, say, with a hamburger and chips, and I demanded his chips off him. You know, and that's a crime. You can't, you know, it's like extortion, but in a different way. I'm demanding these items off this person, and as a 17-year-old, I didn't think nothing of it. You know, whatever. But lo and behold, there was a police officer just near this gentleman, and he arrested me for demanding property with menaces. And when I went to court, the judge noticed that I had nowhere to live and, you know, had nothing. And he basically sent me 6 months in jail, which would give me a roof over my head, food and clothing, he said. And at 17, you could go to a jail back then at that age. You know?
Not charged as a juvenile.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Bogger Road.
Straight into Bogger Road. Yeah, I thought I was going to like Wilson Detention Centre or a child's home or something like that, but I've just turned 17, and they put me in with the likes of some of the worst murderers and rapists and that in Australia. It was horrific.
Do you reckon that experience changed you a little bit? Like,
oh fuck yeah, of course, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd already learnt how to fight and fend for myself on the streets. So I was sort of, a little bit ahead of people that didn't. And going into jail, the first thing I learnt was to keep your back to the wall, be aware of everything that's going on, and speak when spoken to. Yeah. You know, but then you're in a situation where, you know, I can recall the very first time I had to go for a meal. You know, and it's dinner time, and everyone sort of marches along, and you get taken into this mess hall. And in the mess hall is, say 60, 70 men, you know, bald heads, shaved hair, whatever, they're just in there. And they're all, it doesn't matter, they all look the same. They're all hard as fuck. They are. Even the smallest men, they're as hard as fuck, because you're standing there, and you've got a tray with a meal on it. Your knives and forks are rattling because you're shaking and you're scared. And then you've got to look for a place to sit. And you walk up to a table, and you've seen it in the movies, you know, you walk up to a table and you put your tray down. And if the people say fuck off, and you fuck off, then they know you're easy. So you've got two options. Fuck off or stay. And in my case, and because I was a 17-year-old prick with a bad attitude, I stayed. And it turned into a bit of a bloodbath. But at the same time, the next meal was the morning. And I sat in the same spot. And I ended up copping the same shit. And then lunchtime, same spot, same shit. It went on for like, say, 5, 6 outings that I had my meals at. And about the 7th, 8th one, this bloke comes up and he goes, mate, he said, do you not get it? And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I said, but I ain't leaving. And he goes, but you're a glutton for punishment. I said, yeah, but if I leave, they're going to think that, he's easy, he can get told what to do and all that. And he says, well, you got fucking bigger balls than me, mate. And I persisted, and it worked. Yeah,
well, it is true. Like, either way you go about it, you're going to have a negative on it, and you just went with the bigger option, and you just copped the shit.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you sort of have to do. You know, I mean, there was a time where I remember we got porridge in the morning, and I love porridge, but I wouldn't eat porridge in jail because you never know, you know. But I hadn't eaten for a couple of days, and I was starving. And this porridge came on my tray, and I put it on the table, and I thought everything was cool because it's been a couple of weeks, everything was great, and this guy just tattoos all over him, walks up to me, and he smashes the porridge out of my hand, and he goes, "It wasn't for you," and I'm like, "What are you on, pal?" And he goes, "Had shaped glass in it. That was for the bloke behind you, not you."
Oh, wow.
So I was protected.
Yeah, that's good.
So I thought, oh, that's cool. So I sort of earned a little respect.
Yeah.
You know? But why the bloke behind me was getting fed glassy porridge, I don't know. Yeah, you can imagine his insides after that, don't you?
Yeah.
You think you'd notice eating glass after a while?
Yeah, you definitely.
Well, yeah, you'd think so, but you know what? They turn a glass upside down and rub it on concrete until it's so fine.
Oh, wow.
And they get the shavings that you really don't. It's like dust.
And that's the thing, like, with, like, prison, like, knowledge, is some of the stuff they do is so smart. Like, the other day, like, I heard the Daniel Morgan bloke and that other guy that got caught with the kids, how they put boiling water with sugar so it actually, like, sticks on your skin.
Oh, yeah.
It's, like, called prison napalm.
Yeah.
And it's, like, meant to be a lot worse.
Some of them are genius.
Yeah.
I remember one guy saying to me, "Do you want a shiv?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want a shiv. I don't want anything. I don't even want to be here. Fucking shiv." And he says, "Look, I just shave, scratch the toothbrushes till they come to a real pointy end, you know." He said, "But when you stab someone, break it off in them, so that way they have to go to surgery and everything else." And I'm like, break it off in them.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, make sure you break it off in them, because if you just stab them a couple of times, they're still there, they're just going to get stitches. And he said, but you break it off in them, then they're gone. They get rushed to hospital, and you've got a bit of freedom. And the plan, to do something. I'm like, this place is fucked. They're all fucking psycho.
I don't think I could survive in prison.
No way.
No chance.
No way.
I don't know. Today it's a bit different.
Yeah.
I get told you get TVs and all that. I mean, I remember. In my day, in the 80s, 1986, 87, I think I first ventured in there, and there was a big TV, and there was a yard of, say, 30 blokes that had watched one TV, and if one guy wanted to change the channel.
No watching the footy.
People would just sort of go, oh, I don't know if this is going to work out well. So it was really...
Have a punch up over the channel.
Oh, yeah. There was a punch up over anything, though.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you got 30 people in a yard and 30 men, and you got 2 shower blocks, and you got, say, 2 toilets, and none of them had doors on them.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there having a crap, and all of a sudden a big fight breaks out. You're not going to stay sitting there around. You know what I mean?
It's insane, this prison, and like US is kind of, I heard, still the same in that point. But like Australia's definitely calmed down a bit, and it's more protected, and as well with like the whole like sexual offenders thing, they are very protected in there.
Well, they have their own prison basically now, and I hate it fucking really gets on my nerve when people on Facebook or social media somewhere, some platform, they'll say, that guy who raped 100 kids, for instance, he'll be bashed and murdered in jail and this and that. Yeah, okay, he'll be bashed. He won't be murdered.
No.
Right? Because no bastard in jail wants to murder somebody in jail so they spend more time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's just fucking nuts.
Yeah, they want their own
might
freedom.
get hurt.
Yeah.
But that's the limit. He'll just get hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when he goes to a jail that they're all the fucking same.
Yeah, they won't do
no one will
anything.
touch him.
Yeah. I don't know, like, with that, it's a big whole moral issue, but I think they should be thrown in the same prison as everyone else. Like, really.
Yeah, but then you put that on the other prisoners to hurt that person.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in Bogger Road, there was a guy that came in and he was a copper and he was sentenced to jail, and he was on TV cartoon shows promoting child abuse. And he got caught with child abuse.
Yeah, okay, wow.
And his name was Dave Moore. And he was a well-known constable in Brisbane, and he was on agro morning shows with Jackie McDonald and all this, and the bastard was going around fucking kids and that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He gets thrown into jail, and what do? They put me in the same fucking yard as him because I'm a kid. And they think I'll be protected.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously?
Yeah.
And
what he's done.
And then all of a sudden you got other prisoners coming over and they're going, do you know who that is over there? And I'm like, no idea. And they go, that's Dave Moore, the copper. Bash him. I'm not bashing him. You bash him or we'll bash you.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah, okay. Of course.
Yeah.
So, it's a shocking...
It's a hard thing. We'll move on to your whole coffin confession stuff now. So you were saying your first story was of your mate that you were doing the financial PI on, and how did that go from there? You're talking about death.
Yeah, so basically I said to Graham, was his name, that I'd crash his funeral for him. A couple of weeks later, he sent me a text and he said, Bill, I'm going to take you up on the offer and I'm going to pay you 10 grand to do it.
Yeah, wow.
And the 10 grand thing was a great bar for me because it stopped a lot of people saying, oh yeah, I'll hire him for a couple $100 just to bullshit a funeral, you know what I mean? So it became a good bar. And so I said to Graham, what did he really want? And he told me that his best mate's been coming over and trying to sleep with his wife, not actually coming to visit him.
Yeah, that's shit.
You know, a real prick of a bloke. But I needed proof. I can't just go to a funeral and say, hey mate, sit down, shut up or fuck off, because, you know. So I end up setting up a couple of cameras with Graham's, authority and that, and I saw straight away this bloke. He was an absolute grub, and his wife, Graham's wife, was just like terrified of this bloke, but she couldn't tell him to fuck off because
he's his best mate.
And it was just a hard scenario. So Graham couldn't get out of his bed. He couldn't yell, kick or scream or anything to help his family, and he really needed help. And so when I saw all that, I went, oh, fuck yeah, easy, no worries, Graham, I'll sort it for you. And he was like so happy, that something was going to be done. And so the day of the funeral, Graham passed away, and then there was the funeral, and I went to the funeral. I attend the funeral as just family or friend. I just sit amongst the family and friend, and I sit there. And a specific time that Graham and I had worked out, I was to stand up and, last what I said. So basically, I got up. Whilst his best mate's performing the eulogy, a couple of crocodile tears, and I'm sitting there going, oh, this bloke's fucked. And Graham also had instructions for other 3 people in the crowd that he said, if my family arrived there, my brother, his wife and their daughter, I want you to tell them to stand up and fuck off too. I haven't seen them in 30 years, so why are they there paying respects? Fucking vultures. Don't want to know them. They're there for them, not me. I said, no worries, mate. So the day of the funeral, best mate's doing the eulogy, and 2 minutes in the eulogy, I stand up and I go, excuse me, sit down, shut up or fuck off. The coffin's got something to say, and this is what it is. And I pull out an envelope and a letter, and I read the letter aloud to the crowd. And it goes, you're no best mate of mine. You've been trying to screw my wife while I'm on my deathbed. What fucking type of mate does that? You didn't even come and see me. You walked past my room. You wouldn't even wave. And yet you're trying to tap my wife on the arse and all this type of shit. And he was a prick of a bloke. Anyway, everybody in the crowd sort of, oh, fuck, And I could see other people thinking, he's a real perverted prick, this bloke. And he took off. But a lady left with him. So either his wife or girlfriend, whoever it was, I don't know. But they left, and I was like, sweet. And then I said, is John, Rebecca and Tanya in the audience? And they're like, yeah. And they're sitting with the family, And I said, you 3 can fuck off as well. And they're like, what? And I said, look, Graham in the coffin, he don't want you. He hasn't seen you in 30 years, you know. Yeah, and whilst we're going about that, in the letter it also states that there's, nearly 40 grand he's loaned you about 30 years ago and you haven't paid a cent back. How about you start paying back his wife? And... It went over well. I thought it'd go over a bit like a lead balloon, but the whole audience and the crowd really were, shit, this is Graham. This is what his final words were. It's his funeral. Let's have respect for him and let's listen to the messenger. And that's sort of, and I do what I do. So I don't know if the funeral continues because I put the letter in the envelope and put the envelope on the coffin and I walk out. So I'm not even, I'm gone. And as I'm leaving, this lady comes running up. She says, oh, thank you so much for what you did for Dad.
That's
which
good.
was really cool. And the young girl behind her said, my auntie needs to see you. Can I have your number? So I gave her a number anyway, and then it just rolled from funeral to funeral, and it just became global.
Yeah, that's awesome. As well, that's the thing, funerals, it does seem more for the people that attend than the actual person in the coffin.
Yeah.
Because... yeah, people are like vultures. Don't see them for years.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're your best mate. Oh, I love them so much. They were great. And it's just like, haven't even seen me. Like
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of bullshit at funerals, and it's got to stop. And this is what I like about what I've done. And I mean, my first funeral was 2018 now. But we had 2 years of COVID where people couldn't go to funerals.
Yeah.
You know, so, and it became a thing where I was a phenomenon for a start, and then all of a sudden there was nothing.
Yeah.
And then I did a couple of face-to-faces where I'd knock on somebody's door and I'd say, excuse me, you Joe, you know, and they go, yeah, and I go, look, you know, you're at the funeral the other day of Barry, and they go, yeah, and I say, oh, Barry wanted me to punch you in the face, but obviously I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell you straight out that you're a fucking prick, right, and this is why. You know, or it could be a loving message, you know, and now I'm delivering gifts from the afterlife. So I'm knocking on a door and I'm saying, hi, how are you? Your husband died 7 months ago. This is a gift basket that he left behind for me to deliver on this day, which is your anniversary. And the lady's just like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
My husband died 7 months ago. I said, yeah, I know. He engaged me 8 months ago.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, and it is cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a good, bad, funny, sad theme in everything I do. And I love it. It's great.
With the bad, do people, like, if you tell them, yeah, you're a fuckwit, do they take that on? Like, I feel like if a dead person was telling me the honest truth, and if I felt in myself that I was being a fuckwit, I would listen, even though you were probably a stranger to them.
Yeah, I'm a complete stranger, but at the same time, I guess, and this is why not everybody could be a coffin confessor, I guess, because I can tell you to fuck off, but in a way that you'll listen, and I'm not being insulting, and it's not coming from me, right? It's actually a message, and I'll try and let that person know that I'm speaking to that that's the actual case, right? It's not my thoughts, my feelings, or anything. I'm just the messenger. And if you've grieved this person or done them wrong, you know within your heart that you've done that, and they also know it. And this is why they're coming out and telling you. And it's the same with a funeral. I may crash and I may say a really loving message for everybody. And everybody really knows it. And it's true. If you really know that person, you already know, you know them. You might know their deepest, darkest secrets and desires, and it might shock some people, but at the same time, it's really cool. Because, but cool and sad, because how sad is it that we can't live our lives as we really want to? You know what I mean? We're all
got to have a mask on.
Yeah, we all have a mask, and every person on the planet's got a skeleton in the closet. Everyone. You know, it's just a matter if you want to let it out or not. You boys mightn't have it yet, but one day you will, you know what I mean? And I've got to say, when I wrote my first book, The Coffin Confessor, I was told to put every secret I know in the book, because you'll have people coming after you, and they'll be exposing your secrets. So that's what I've been doing. Even in the second book I'm writing now, I'm halfway through, and I'm still putting things that I remember. I think, oh shit, I never put that in the first book. I'm going to put that now before somebody comes after me. You know, and it's usually, you know, the family you create, which is my wife and my children. They're the most loyal, loving family, you know, I have. The family I come from, a bunch of cunts. I just wouldn't, I don't even like to call them family. They're the ones that'll come after you. And it's usually always the ones closest to you that'll come after you. But, you know, the family I've created is just awesome. And it's what I've created. And then, you know, my wife and us together, we've just, we're very blessed.
With your coffin confessions as well, like, with, say, your funeral, would you want someone to do it for you? Like,
I've got no secrets left.
No secrets left?
No, I've said a couple of things in interviews where, you know, if I, at my funeral, I mean, I'd love to have the coffin filled with fireworks before it goes in the furnace, but I mean, that's probably not going to happen. Secondly, maybe I would like to crash my own funeral. So I've been exploring the ideas of, you know, having myself appear at my own funeral, you know, which is pretty good. It's like holograms, you know? And it'd be something bizarre, but still something that I could do. Would I trust anybody else to do it other than my son and my daughter and my wife? No. And would I put that on them to do it? No. You know what I mean? And that's why, I guess, me being the coffin confessor, not knowing you or your wife or anybody's life or anything, being engaged, they're like, wow, I can tell this bloke everything. He's a holder of secrets. He's not going to let it go because his whole business, his whole life and framework works around being trusting. You know, I get paid before the people go. I mean, I get paid between $2,000 and $10,000 a gig. Yeah. They don't need the money where they're going. I never get a complaint. But the thing is I hold their money and their trust. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's a huge thing. And that's, I guess, why more and more people are hiring me now from around the world, because they know the trust, they see the trust, and that they just feel it, you know. And for me to blow that over a few bucks, you know, or just a story is not. Yeah.
Well, that's what my girlfriend was saying as well. Like someone's dying and you're handing them over like 10 grand, say. How do they know that you're actually going to do it? Like
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I could just take money and run.
Yeah, exactly.
And I could have done that, you know, multiple times now. But and like Graham once told me, you know, before he passed, he said, "We all fucking die, Bill. We all die. Yeah. If there's an afterlife and you've screwed me over, you're there for eternity.
I'm going to come for you."
You know what I mean? And he paid me 10 grand just to crash a funeral. Yeah. And it was the fucking most easiest money I ever made, especially when I worked out that these pricks were pricks. Yeah. So I was happy to do it. Yeah. And then from then on, I thought, and when it turned into a full-on business and went global, why would I even bother thinking of ripping off the dead? You know what I mean? I'm not a bank. You know,
probably a bit of fun too.
It is fun. Yeah. It's fun, but it's also, I got to say, I'm providing a service that I never thought, and to be honest with you, no one in the world thought that the service would go like it has. Yeah. And now it's just, So I'm providing a service for certain people that want it, need it, or just feel like, hey, this is cool. Yeah. It's a cool way to go.
Yeah. And like I was going to bring up before as well, have you seen that Irish guy that had like the speakers down in his coffin?
Yeah, that's cool.
That's cool as.
I like anything that people do at their funerals, and I've got to say, you know, some people have like speakers, some have flashing lights, some have might have a glass cutout for a bit of the coffin, you know, and stuff like that. I have one request from a bloke in England that wants perspex put at the front of his coffin, so when it's like at the viewing and at the funeral service, people can actually see the top of his head, but he wants a fake hand knocking on it, like a bit of fun. I mean, that's cool. Yeah. And why not? We all think death is the end and the worst thing possible, and to some it is, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, why can't we go out the way we want to go?
Exactly.
You should. Your funeral.
Should be. Yeah, you should be able to. And it's kind of sad that people like take it on themselves to make the funeral for you. Like,
well, that's a huge thing. I mean, like a couple of years ago, I crashed a funeral where the gentleman said, "I will not have a religious funeral. I don't want one." Yeah. You know, and to walk into a church and tell everybody to sit down, shut up or fuck off, the person in the coffin doesn't want a religious funeral, was mind-blowing. But at the same time, 3/4 of the attendees, the mourners, were there going, fuck yeah. He didn't want to, just because of his mum and dad. He hadn't seen his mum and dad in a while, but his mum and dad didn't respect him. Yeah. But at the same time, you can sort of feel for them too, because they're very religious and they want their son to be, you know. But look, you know, we do have a case where funerals are, I guess, organised by the living. Yeah. They are for the dead, they're not for the living left behind. A lot of funerals that people attend, they attend for their own personal reasons. It's not actually for the person in the casket half the time. So, you know, you're on a borderline of, you know, anybody can die suddenly and then it's left for those. Yeah. But this is why we need to talk. And this is why you now need to tell your partners, your wife, your husband, girlfriend, whoever, that this is what I want, you know. And at the end of the day, you got someone like John Lennon from the Beatles, right? Wanted to be buried. Yeah. Everybody knew he wanted to be buried.
He got cremated.
Yoko Ono had him cremated. Yeah. So, I mean, he didn't get what he wanted. Yeah. So the more you tell and, you know, demand, you know, and let people know exactly what you want, you know, hopefully these days things change and your respects are,
And as well, like like for example, that guy that you went to, the people that actually knew him would have known that.
For sure.
Like that he didn't want to
Yeah, he didn't have a
wedding.
religious bone in his
Yeah.
body. He wasn't like that. And I guess that was the turmoil and the torment between him and his mum and dad, you know. But for them to try and get the last laugh seemed a bit, wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and he ended up getting the last laugh in the end.
Yeah,
You know,
well,
so,
he prepared for it, I guess.
He did, yeah.
With like all of that, how does the legal side go with you taking authority over the funeral? Like, is that a hard thing to do?
It's questionable because a couple of people will turn around and say, you can't just crash the funeral and do that. Well, you know what? It's their funeral, not yours.
Yeah.
I have a contract in place, a written contract. I also have a video on my phone.
Yeah, okay.
Right, and we go through everything. And it's like if I go to a home sweep, which means if a person's had a fall, they go to hospital and then they can't go back home, I'll often go to their home and I'll sweep it for items that they want returned to them or incinerated. Yeah. And it could be items like sex toys, lingerie, guns, drugs, money. It could be anything, you know what I mean? But they don't want their family and friends to find them. They're too embarrassed about those items. Yeah. So I go in and I get rid of them. So I need a contract. I need something. Yeah. So not only do I have a written contract, but I have the video. And in one case, the lady says, I'm going to call the police. You shouldn't be in this house. It's my mum's house. And I'm like, well, look, call the police. Yeah. You know? And at the end of the day, I just show her the video. This is your mum. Yeah. This is her mum giving me the instructions where the key is. This is your mum instructing me where all the items are to be collected. Yeah. You aren't supposed to be here. Yeah. You know, and she's like, well, it's my mum's house. Yeah, but you aren't supposed to be here. Okay, so call the police. And she's like, no, you can get fucked. And I took the items I needed and I left. Yeah.
After the funeral happens, you leave. A couple of days later, do you ever have any repercussions of people trying to get up you for it or hunting you down or noticing you after?
No, I've been noticed after for sure. But, I mean, only just g'days or, you know... A couple of times you might be called a cunt, but at the end of the day, you are what you eat. But I've got to say that it's one of those things that it may become more frequent where people get upset. But again, I'm only the messenger, and again, my background and where I've been, you want to be good, and you want to be a lot harder and faster and quicker and everything else. But at the same time, I understand what their thoughts are and feelings, and I've got empathy and sympathy for them, but it wasn't their funeral. So whilst, yes, I'm being recognised, especially attending a funeral now or a viewing, people get their phones out and they'll be ready for it. But I'm very quick, and sometimes they haven't even pressed play because they're so in awe of what's going on and in shock. They're like, holy fuck, what did he just say? So I get in and out really quick, but it's... I've got to say, it's something that I find people let go. As soon as it's done, it's gone. And whilst at the time there might be a bit of animosity in that, it doesn't last long because I've got the crowd on my side to start with. And those that are a bit shitty or anything else, well, the person's gone. They're dead. The funeral's over. And if they see me, it's just like, whatever. You know?
Well, I'll ask you, three of them. What was your, most hardest one to do? Your favourite one, and probably one that you've done overseas or something. We'll go through them.
I think the hardest one I had to do was it was a private viewing. Where I had to pinprick the body because the guy was petrified of being cremated alive. Oh, wow. And we all have that fear of death, of being buried alive or cremated alive. And this guy, he was petrified. Yeah. And he said to me, look, I want you to go to the viewing, I want you to take some needles and I want you to treat my body like a pin cushion, to make sure I'm fucking dead.
I actually understand that. It sounds silly, but I do understand that,
I was the same. And, so I get a couple of minutes, private with the man and I pinprick his body and he's dead, and thank fuck because I didn't want him to wake up. Happy days for him if he did wake up, but for me I was like, fuck, But it's a bizarre feeling and it was really, it became, I guess in a way, it's a real connection between me and that person because I knew that person quite well. But then to do that was like, fuck, am I doing the wrong thing? Am I tampering with the body? Am I doing...
Yeah.
But you know what?
It feels personal.
Body.
Like, that's really personal.
Yeah, it was personal.
Yeah,
very personal. But at the end of the day, it was your job I did. I took it on and it's done, you know. So that was probably the most, intimidating type, confronting one, you know. As much as, I've got to say, the funniest one would be a gentleman's grandmother had passed away, probably 10 years ago, and at the funeral, it was the wrong body.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they actually brought the wrong body in the street. Yeah. And so the whole funeral went down 10 years ago, and, like, they found out after the funeral that they fucking buried the wrong lady and everything. Like, it was fucking huge, you know, and they went off. So at his funeral, he says, I want you to walk up, open the coffin, check it's me, look at my wife, give her the okay, and that's all I want you to do. And I'm like, yeah, cool, no drama. So we organised this, and then at the last minute, you know, he gives me a call and he says, hey, Bill, you know, I really, you know, I still want you to do it. Can you put a theme there? And I'm like, the theme, what do you want? And he says, I want Pop Goes the Weasel as you do it. He said, yeah, on your phone, just play Pop Goes the Weasel. Bit of fun for everyone. I'm like, fuck. So, you know, his request, so I'm playing and at the time, you know, you get there and I open the coffin, look in, it's him, look at the wife, she gives me the signal, you know, and it's good, happy days. But the terrifying part about that is every coffin has a lock and a slide or a device that doesn't allow the lid to open. Yeah. So I had to know what coffin it was and research all that stuff and find out, because I didn't want to be fucking around with the coffin. You know what I mean? It'd be fucking hard. So I found out and I developed all that and thought, finally, I know what's going on. And then I thought to myself, why don't the coffins have locks on them? The fucking people are dead. But it was because if the coffin gets dropped, if the casket or coffin gets dropped, the lid doesn't fly open.
And the body
so then I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. You know, so that was So that was the fun.
I could not imagine, like, for example, coming to the funeral late, right? You're at the back, and then next minute you see this guy with Pop Goes the Weasel on his phone, walk up to the coffin, open it, complete stranger, gives a thumbs up, walks off. And
that's it. You know, and then you have people like the undertakers and the pallbearers and all that looking at you going, what the fuck are you? Like, they're not saying it, but you can feel it. And everyone's respecting everybody else sitting around and doing what they're doing. And then some of them will look at the wife and she'll just go, it's okay, it's all right, you know, and which is good for me because I've got somebody there that knows what's going on, and I'm like, oh fuck, this is bizarre. But at the same time, when I got in the car and drove off, I sort of went, wow, that was mind blowing, but cool. Yeah. And as for travelling, globally, I mean, I've got thousands of clients throughout the world. You know?
Wow.
People that aren't even close to death. You know, I've got a lot that are in England. There's one gentleman that he's got terminal cancer. He's had it for a while now, and he keeps in touch with me, and he says, look, you know, you've only got a week after he dies before a funeral, which is good because I mean, at least I've got a week. A week to 10 to 12 days, whatever it is, to plan to go over. Now, his viewing. At his viewing, and it's not even his funeral, it's a viewing I've got to attend. I've got to strip him naked, flip him over, and like kiss this on his ass. So when his family come in to see him, that's where I was. And he's paid well for doing that, you know what I mean? Wow. But at the end of the day, that's what they want. That's cool, you know, so why not?
Yeah, wow. As well, another question I had about it is there ever any overlaps? Like, say, someone dies and they have the funeral on the same day, and you have to...
Oh, I'm sure it will happen. It hasn't happened yet. I'm sure it will happen one day. And I guess that another thing in the contracts and everything I do, it's not always at the funeral that I have to crash. It can be a face-to-face, it can be a will reading, or it could be a wake. You know, and I've been to a wake where everybody's having drinks and nibbles and all that, and then I've stood there and said, oh, you bastards out there just here for the food. Henry, who died and has been laid to rest, hope some of yous choke on the shit, you know. But at the end of the day, that's what he wanted, because he said to me, "Oh, if you can't crash the funeral, can you crash the wake?" And then I was like, "Well, I can crash your funeral." And he goes, "No, do the wake. No, do the funeral." And then it was like, "No, it'd be funny if you do the wake." And I'm like, "Okay." So, yeah.
Oh, this funny stuff, eh? I just could not imagine the amount of just things that you get up to that, like, you probably think at this point are normal because it, like, happens, but you're just like, oh yeah, nothing surprises me anymore. Nothing. Yeah. There's no surprises, no shocks, no nothing. Everybody's got a secret, like I say, and when I hear them, I think, oh yeah, that's cool, you know, it's something different. But I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Yeah. You know, there's a recent one where this bloke, he had vultures in the family. Like, his family was very toxic, and they wanted everything off him, right? And unfortunately, I wasn't very knowledgeable about bequests, which means that you can leave all your money or part of it to a charity, you know, and it can do good. Yeah. And unfortunately, back then, I wasn't right into that until I am now, you know. And I'm saying to people, look, if you've got toxic family, leave it to a charity, Royal Flying Doctors or Blind Dogs or something, you know. Yeah. Even if it's a percentage, do it. Yeah. It goes a long way. So this guy, he says, I want you to bury this you know, box. And it was like a shaver type camera box, you know. I had to collect it from his place. I collected it, and he gave me the combo because I could get my cash that he owed me out of it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'd rather... Yeah. But anyway, so we came to an agreement. I opened it, and there's a lot of money and a lot of stuff in there, like very, very wealthy man. But I didn't know where to fucking bury it. I had no idea where to bury it. Like, where do you bury something like that? Yeah. And you can't destroy money. Yeah. It's illegal to do that. Yeah. So you've got to be careful what you do. So I had no fucking idea where I was going to bury it. And he was being buried himself, you know, in a few days. And so I came up with this idea. And I went and saw the grave digger, and I said, can you lower me into the grave? And he says, what? I said, I'll give you $200. Lower me into the grave, leave me there for a couple of minutes. And if you can I have the pick and shovel? And he said, yeah. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm burying something under his coffin. So I dug a hole, put his stuff in it, waited for the funeral, and then the coffin goes down on top of it, and then it gets covered in. Yeah. And I'm like, best hiding story ever. Guess what? Yeah. So it worked out really cool for me. And then when that story come out, everybody's like, where's this guy? Fuck, just wait. My grandfather died. Was it my grandfather? So everybody was trying to think. So it's... but it was good, you know, and the guy who lowered me into the grave, he was really good. He helped me out, and but he said, as he's lowered me in and lifted, you know, gone back out, he says to me, "Oh, I'll be back in a minute." I'm like, fuck. And they're not 6 foot under. No. Like, they're fucking like 10, 12 I've seen them before.
And I'm sitting in there thinking, and this is his last forever place, you know. So it was a scary, cathartic kind of feeling, you know.
This is where he's going to be for... Yeah. And I'm looking around the walls thinking, fuck, his neighbours are right there. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So it's cremation for me. Yeah, cremation for you? Spread over the ocean, bottle of port, gone. Fair enough. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of stories to come, and you probably have a lot more. Like, I was going to ask you about writing a book. How did that go for you, and when did that?
Look, the first book went sensational. It's called The Coffin Confessor. That's gone around the world. It's gone nuts. So I was really happy with that, and then obviously Penguin Random House Australia were happy with it because they've commissioned another book. Yeah. So I'm halfway through that. The stories in there are, there's some good ones. Yeah. I've done a lot since the first book. And again, I intertwine my life and the people I meet, because sometimes you might meet somebody that lived on the Gold Coast and used to surf all the time. And I did that too. Yeah. And their story will simulate with mine, and I'll put a little bit of what I did in there. And I did that, and used to, you know, and then all of a sudden... You build a bit of a form and a connection with that person, you know, through death or life, whatever it is. Yeah. But then it's translated into a book, and then other people read it, and then they go, fuck yeah, I remember that place. I was there too. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's cool.
Yeah, well, I listened to the first chapter on Spotify, the ebooks, which are awesome now. But it was awesome the way that you just told the story. And it was just like, I reckon it was awesome. Like, So guys, check out the book. Definitely check it out.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
Yeah. And as well, I was gonna final question for me, if you want to also ask anything. But how many clients, how many how not clients, but how many things do you have to do for clients in a week? How often is work in it?
It's not every week or month either. I mean, it could be 3-4 months apart.
Yeah.
But obviously, the busier you get and the more engagements you get, it comes along a bit sooner. But I'm sort of happy the way it is at the moment because it's not, in your face so much. Yeah. I do other things. Yeah. And I like it controlled that way. But look, I get thousands of emails, asking me to franchise, become a big business, and go around the globe. But I'm happy doing what I'm doing. Yeah. I really am. I keep it at a level where, and it's bizarre, but I'm still the only Coffin Confessor on the planet. Yeah. And it doesn't matter who starts up anywhere in the world.
They want the original dude.
It's always the original.
Yeah. Because otherwise they're copycats, and you don't know if they do it the same way.
And you've got to build the trust. Yeah. And that's the other thing: the reputation, the trust, and I think anybody that's dying. And I speak to these people, and it's very confronting thing for them and for me. Mm. But they already know that I've built up the trust and the reputation, so it's there. And I guess they know that their secret isn't coming out until after they died, And sometimes I own all their stories. In the contract, they agree that I can own all the stories. Yeah. I can do what I want with them. And whilst I do, I don't mention their real names or their families or anything. I've had people in America come at me and they go, we want to see some of these people or talk to some of these people at the funeral. Okay, I'll go find them. Mm. No, you tell us who they are. At the very start I did. Yeah. And they went and hunted these people down. Yeah. And these people, their own families ganged up on them because they knew that I was going to be at the funeral and what I was going to do, but they had no idea that they knew that. And then all of a sudden it split families. Yeah. So I don't tell anybody anything anymore. Yeah. I don't want to know about them. I have no concern for those left behind. I'm there for my client only, and then I walk away. Yeah. Couldn't give a fuck about anything else.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That would be. Do you have any?
Oh yeah, in these contracts, what are in them? Is it like a form that you just have on your computer and you send them and then they just?
Yeah, basically it is nowadays. It's templated. It just states that I'm engaged. I've got the right and the authority to go to their funeral and crash it. Yeah. I also have the right and the authority to remove the casket in their body. Wow. Should anybody contest. Yeah, wow. Which means I have to have another undertaker, hearse and everything else. Yeah. It's never happened yet, but in the event that I have to, then I will. But I mean, some people say, you'll need security and police and all that soon at funerals, and maybe that's the way funerals are going. Who knows? I've been to a few funerals in the past, years ago, where there was punch-ups and ill feelings. Yeah. Never one at mine. Yeah. But at the same time, I guess that's because it's all coming out through a third party.
Yeah. That how you've got to organise all of that in case would be a lot of work as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For sure.
I feel like this could be we've all seen shows when they do skits about they do weird stories, and I think Hamish and Andy did one, and then they have a skit of it happening. It would just be the perfect thing. Yeah. You'd tell the story, and then after it'd be a visual representation of it happening.
You need a documentary, man, in your head.
There's a lot going on. I've been approached by movies, drama series, documentaries, and reality shows. So I'm looking into a lot of those things.
A perfect Adam Sandler movie.
True, it would be.
I also like it being like the Wedding Crashers, except flipped. And
that's true.
Well, we might wrap up. How long have we been going for? I can't even read that. 50 minutes, almost an hour. Is there anything that you want to say?
No, it's been great. I really hope you guys go forward and flourishes for you. I think it's great, to see you guys doing something. Definitely enjoyed it. It's been a great experience. I love talking about what I do because it's different, unique, and it's controversial too.
It's definitely a unique thing. And I was talking to my family about it, and they're all pretty interested in it. And they're like, it would be such a cool job, but such a hard job as well. And only, like you said, only certain people could do it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Nah, I'm petrified even going on camera doing this, let alone trying to get in front of 100 people and
Family members of a dead person that just
telling them to fuck off.
no way.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks, mate. We'll wrap up and make sure to check out his book. And when will you, do you know a release date of your next one?
It'll be about this time next year.
Okay, awesome. So we'll look out for that. Thank you. See you guys.
Thank you.
She got a body like a goddess, and she talks so sweet. It's like I can't believe I'm the one that she wanted. And if I'm really being